What's up, guys? How's it going? Today I am in Chisinau, the capital of Moldova, and this is the fifth former Soviet Union country that I have visited. When the Soviet Union collapsed, it was divided into 15 countries. You're probably wondering why I've come to this part of the world 5 times, and over the course of this video, I'll explain. So I'm just leaving my hotel now, which was built in the 1980s while Moldova was still part of the Soviet Union. And my room on the 10th floor with a balcony that I was just standing on is about $33 a night. And that includes breakfast. Now, it's not the nicest hotel. The only thing that's really changed since it was part of the Soviet Union is that they now have Wi-Fi. Other than that, the hotel has pretty much stayed the same. And so, as I said, I've been to 5 of the 15 former Soviet Union countries. The 5 that I've been to are Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Azerbaijan, and now Moldova. The other 10 are the 5 stands: Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan. So that's 10 countries. And then, of course, you have Caucasus, Georgia, Armenia. Then there's Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. And so of the 5 countries that I have visited all of them alone except for one. Azerbaijan I visited with my brother, and for the most part I never really had any issues with communicating with the people or any issues with visas or anything. For Azerbaijan I was able to get an e-visa. The Russian visa is a little more complicated. And so all of these countries are pretty cheap, but people don't really visit them because they have a terrible idea of these countries, or they hear things about them in the media and they're kind of afraid of them. And so there are a few reasons why I personally have decided to start visiting this side of the world and why I've now been to 5 countries in Eastern Europe. It's started with the fact that I went to Russia during the World Cup, and I was kind of shocked to see how nice the country was. Now, as I said, a lot of these countries are really cheap. Moscow and St. Petersburg and the larger cities, they are not very cheap. However, Moldova in particular is extremely cheap. And so after visiting Russia during the World Cup, I decided that I wanted to visit more of these countries, see more of this part of the world. Now, the first reason why I'd say it's a perfect time to visit Eastern Europe or Russia in general is that the Russian visa got a lot easier to get. It used to be, I think, $400 for a 3-year visa. It's now $200, and you can apply yourself at a visa center, and they will actually help you with the paperwork. It's not as difficult as it used to be to get one of these visas. So the next reason is that flights from JFK in New York to Moscow are extremely cheap. They typically go for under $600 for a round-trip flight, and a direct flight. It's about 9 or 10 hours, but $575 to get to Europe is really not bad. And so the next thing that I'll mention is that I think it's really interesting to visit a place that you don't know much about. For example, I decided to drive once from Warsaw, Poland to right over the border to a city in Belarus called Grodno, and I just had no idea what to expect. We don't typically hear anything about countries like Belarus or Moldova, and I had a pretty good time and found it to be super interesting. It kind of felt like I had gone back in time to the USSR with you know, army tanks and stuff there. And I had a similar experience in Baku, Azerbaijan. I went there with my brother, like I said, and I showed up and had no idea that it would be kind of a mix of Russian and Middle Eastern. It was totally not what I was expecting, and it ended up being a really rich, clean, well-preserved city, almost like a young Dubai. Here I am in the tourist center of the city, and as you can see, there are not many tourists at all. So it's kind of cool to visit a city that hasn't been kind of overrun with places like Starbucks and McDonald's. Not that I have anything against Starbucks or McDonald's, I do go to both of these places, but it's pretty cool to see a country that doesn't have these Western brands. And so clearly these countries are much different than Western Europe. So the cuisine is very different. It's pretty good. It's very unique though. It does take a little bit of time getting used to, but I really enjoy it now. And luckily I can find lots of it in New York.
Вот смотри на меня. Вот смотри на меня. Вот на меня смотри. На меня. Нет, подожди, послушай. Одеваешь на лобик и одеваешь на уши, когда ветер. А вот маме.
Сколько это стоит?
Это стоит 150. Вот. Это маме. Маме.
Да,
Маме.
да, понятно, да.
Вот. А это жене. Жене.
Нет, нет, нет.
Сестре.
Мама.
Маме.
У меня есть брат.
Во.
Окей, дайте мне это.
Давай деньги. Все.
Да,
Молодец, молодец. Это очень хорошее. Мама тебе, кому ты подаришь, они будут целовать и будут спрашивать. Еще 50. 150. Бонус.
Хорошо.
Посмотришь,
Нет,
как...
нет, у меня есть рюкзак.
Ну давай. Все.
Спасибо.
Молодцумер.
Visiting these countries is pretty cool because they're not used to seeing tourists, so the people take an interest to you and they kind of like to hear about where you're from and what you're doing here, so it creates for some pretty good conversation. I remember I was in Kiev, Ukraine, and I was getting ready for bed, and I decided to go out just to have one beer before going to sleep. Ended up meeting some locals and did not get back to my hotel until 8 a.m. We were out all night partying. I just had a really good time with the locals there, and they were super friendly and super welcoming and were willing to show me around their city. And so I'm gonna end this video here by saying that I definitely love visiting Eastern Europe since, again, we don't know that much about it. And although I've only been to 5 of the former 15 Soviet Union countries, I definitely want to visit a few more, including the stands like Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, definitely these places. If you haven't yet visited Eastern Europe, I suggest you do so before these countries become more Western.